What's up, guys? It's John81. Today I'm just gonna compare the three types of controls for the Sony platforms. First, we got Dualshock 1, which I have the cable coiled around. Dualshock 2, we got the blue one right here. It's plugged into my USB to PS2 to USB converter. And then I got my Dualshock 3, and I'm gonna go over the PSP button layout. Now, first I'm gonna start with the original Dualshock. I don't have the original controller without the analog, but whatever. Now, this is the first time we've ever seen a vibration function being built into a controller without a peripheral. As far as I'm concerned, you know, you got a D-pad here. You know, it's very stiff. It's the stiffest D-pad we've seen on a Sony controller. You got two trigger buttons on each side, which is something we've never seen before, and it became something popular after that. Four face buttons, so selecting this analog button, which would toggle between using the D-pad and the sticks. Now, a lot of people, they're not a fan of these analog sticks where they're placed. Or some people who prefer the analog stick to be placed right here, like they do on like the Dreamcast and Xbox controllers. But you know, since I was a little kid, I've been using the analog sticks here, so I guess I just grew into that. I also don't mind it where the Xbox or Dreamcast has it. That's fine. And, this is the first controller to use dual analog sticks. Not a lot of PS1 games use this other analog stick, the left one. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, the sticks, the thumbsticks, they have gripping on it. I don't think it's removable. No, it's not removable. And the stiff D-pad, no gripping. Trigger buttons, no gripping. Now with the DualShock 2, they had the same gripping on here. Everything's basically the same, only that there's a little bit of grip on the D-pad, very subtle grip. It's a little looser. And it feels a lot nicer. It's not so like stiff on it. It feels more natural. And the vibration function was the strongest on this controller. Sometimes even a little too strong, and it'd just be like bzzz, and just go nuts. But yeah, the button it's basically identical to the DualShock 2, and the PS2 games. The left analog stick started to become used a little more. And yeah, this is actually my favorite DualShock. It just takes what we had on the DualShock 1 and improves it a little bit to like the couple of problems we had before, like a stiff D-pad and the vibrating function. It was not as strong as this, but yeah, but mainly the D-pad problem is the one that I had with the DualShock 1. Now the final console one is the DualShock 3. Now, instead of the analog button, we have the PlayStation button, which turns on the PS3. My PS3 is maybe 20 feet away from me, and you press it, you get the flashing lights. Can't really see them flashing. And once they stop flashing, and then one goes on, that's when your PS3, it's fully synced with your PS3, and that's about how long it takes to boot up. Now you hold the PS button down, and I think you just press X, and then X again, and it should turn off. I'm not sure, I don't have my TV on, but it doesn't matter. Well, yeah, it turned off. That's what you do. Now the D-pad on here has got it has like an ideal amount of gripping. It's a little better. The DualShock 2 D-pad is a little bit more comfortable than the DualShock 3 as far as the tightness. This is kind of the middle ground. The gripping on here, I mean, probably because it's new, it feels a little bit better. And they added gripping on the trigger buttons. Now the biggest change they had to this is instead of actually making them shoulder buttons like in the past, like you see here, the L2 and R2 buttons, they're actual shoulder buttons. And here they made them actual triggers, so yeah, but the only problem is your fingers would tend to slip off of these a little bit. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make you hold it more like a gun, so like this. Which, it's a little awkward, but I think it's something you got to get used to. It curls up on your hand a little bit. Instead of just like sitting back here, which is what you're used to. And you know, it's got mini USB here, charges right there, no batteries, no nothing. It's wireless. I think it has PC compatibility. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a way you can install a driver or something. Um, and yeah, it's identical to the 6-axis, only this has a vibration function, not as strong as the Dualshock 2. But I think this is the ideal one. But out of all the 3 Dualshocks you have, my favorite one is the Dualshock 2 because I felt it was the most comfortable feeling. And the only problem I had with it is the vibrating was too strong. And here, you know, these trigger buttons, these cause a problem for me. And also, if you see the cutaway on here, it's not as deep of a cutaway because they have to have a battery in here. And I just pressed the PS button by accident. And when you see here, there's a deep cutaway here, which, you know, your fingers can rest in easily. Now, the PSP, this thing is a nightmare as far as the D-pad goes. You can't really see it, but it's a little bit smaller. The buttons itself are a little bit smaller. Actually, a little bit bigger. My bad. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger, and they're a little further apart from each, so they don't stick out as much. So it's not like you can stick your thumb in the middle of it and like that, and then just like kind of move around, you know. So you know, it's awkward. Say if you're playing a fighting game, you want to spit out a fireball. It's very awkward to do. It's very hard to do. And this thumbstick right here, you know, it had a top on it that had a grip, but it's very flimsy. It falls off very easily. And yeah, that was my problem with that. And, you know, a lot of people had the problem that I only had one. Personally, I think that they shouldn't have had one at all and just had a good D-pad. That would have been perfect. Because, you know, this thing is too small to control. I think they should have stuck with, you know, if you're going to have 2 thumb pads, they should make it like a scaled-down version of one of these instead of one of these nubs because they kind of suck. And, you know, this is better. Another thing is these face buttons. They're kind of flimsy too, unlike the ones on the DualShocks. Very sturdy. You know, this has a hold button, yada yada yada. Trigger buttons are really nice though. Or the shoulder buttons, very nice. I really like that. I mean, I don't know if this D-pad's been solved in the later models. I haven't used one. But for the fat PSP, it's not good, and it's really something that I want to see them improve upon in the first one. And now, just the final thoughts on this. Like, I think the DualShock is the ideal way to play fighting games as far as the gamepad goes. And you know, you can buy one of these PS2 to USB converters, which my friend Keely reviewed, and you know, you can play on there. You know, but if you don't like it, you can always buy an arcade stick, which was always a great thing about consoles. You know, they always make arcade sticks. Unfortunately, since the PSP is a handheld, it doesn't have arcade sticks. And there's actually some pretty decent fighting games on there. And you can emulate, like, Neo Geo on there. So I'm trying to emulate Mark of the Wolves, and I'm getting my ass kicked because I can't pull off all these combos that I could with one of these controllers. So, yeah, I mean, that's just something I want them to fix up in this one. And anyway, this is John Nitty1 out.